Argentina has done it again. A political earthquake no one saw coming, yet everyone felt. Javier Milei, the libertarian president once mocked as a madman with a chainsaw, just won re-election on October 26, 2025. In a world drowning in bureaucracy and inflation, Argentina doubled down on radical freedom. How did a country famous for tango, debt, and Peronism end up choosing disruption again? That's the paradox shaking not only Buenos Aires, but the entire region. Because here's the thing, Milei isn't just a politician. He's a rebellion in human form, against decades of corruption, against the peso's collapse, against everything normal in Latin American politics. Some call him a savior, others a ticking time bomb. But love him or hate him, you can't ignore him. His victory isn't just about Argentina. It's about a continent asking itself whether liberty can beat populism, and whether chaos might actually be the cure. So stay with me until the end, because what's happening right now in Argentina could rewrite Latin America's story for decades to come. We'll uncover how Milei's rise rewired a nation, what his re-election means for global markets, and what comes next in this libertarian revolution that refuses to die. By the end, you'll see why this isn't just another election. It's a signal to the world that history, once again, is being made in the South. October 26, 2025. Buenos Aires didn't sleep. Streets that once echoed with protests were now roaring with chants of "Viva la libertad, carajo!" as Javier Milei secured his re-election in Argentina's latest election. The libertarian president, who first took office in 2023, defied predictions once again. With over 55% of the vote, Milei's victory confirmed that Argentina had doubled down on his radical vision for transformation. For some, it was liberation. For others, a leap into the unknown. Across the nation, emotions erupted like fireworks, literally. Supporters flooded the Obelisco wrapped in Argentine flags, while critics gathered in Plaza de Mayo holding signs that read "No to dollarization" and "Stop the chainsaw." The atmosphere was electric, raw, and divided. Even those who opposed Milei couldn't deny the magnitude of the moment. Argentina had made history again, not by chance, but by conviction. The inflation crisis and decades of Peronism had driven voters to choose disruption over tradition. When Milei stepped onto the stage that night, his words were sharp, emotional, and unapologetically ideological. "Freedom is not negotiable," he declared, vowing to push the second phase of Argentina's transformation, deeper structural reforms, a faster path toward dollarization, and a government stripped of bureaucracy. His voice cracked with both passion and exhaustion, a sign of the war still ahead. And as his supporters roared back, one couldn't help but wonder, was this the dawn of a true libertarian era in Latin America, or the calm before the next storm? When Javier Milei first stormed into office in 2023, most analysts thought his libertarian experiment would collapse within a year. But instead of folding, the economist-turned-showman rewired Argentina's political DNA. He tore through decades of Peronism with a chainsaw plan that slashed subsidies, dismantled ministries, and opened markets. It wasn't painless. Inflation initially spiked to nearly 200%. Yet by late 2024, monthly inflation had dipped below 4% for the first time in a decade. For many Argentines, that glimpse of stability was proof his shock therapy might just be working. His presidency became a masterclass in survival amid chaos. Milei fought unions, governors, and the traditional political class, turning every clash into a media spectacle. He wielded social networks like a sword, live-streaming cabinet meetings and calling critics parasites. Still, behind the noise, he built quiet alliances with business leaders and governors desperate for fiscal order. They didn't love his style, they loved his results. Argentina's fiscal deficit shrank by 60%, and foreign investors cautiously returned. By 2025, Milei had rebranded chaos into momentum. His message of economic freedom or decline resonated with a nation exhausted by broken promises. Even those skeptical of dollarization began to concede that the libertarian president had achieved what few before him could: discipline in a country addicted to debt. His path to re-election wasn't paved with popularity, it was paved with conviction. And that conviction set the stage for a decisive moment. How much pain were Argentines willing to endure for the promise of long-term gain? As Argentina headed toward the 2025 election, the country looked like a battlefield between recovery and exhaustion. Inflation, though still hovering around 80% annually, had finally stopped spiraling. The peso remained under pressure, yet the black market dollar gap narrowed for the first time in years, a small victory that Milei's supporters hailed as proof of progress. Supermarkets no longer changed prices twice a day, but the scars of austerity were visible everywhere. Closed businesses, reduced public jobs, and families stretching every peso just to survive. The chainsaw plan had divided the nation into two camps. One saw it as the painful but necessary surgery to cure Argentina's long illness, the other, an attack on the working class. Protests flared in Buenos Aires, led by unions and social movements, accusing Milei of selling the country to foreign capital. Yet in provinces like Mendoza and Córdoba, people spoke differently. They praised the new climate for entrepreneurship and investment. As one taxi driver put it, "It hurts, but at least it's real change." That sentiment echoed through the silent majority. Public debt had started to shrink, and Argentina's relationship with the IMF was less combative than ever. International markets noticed. For the first time since 2018, the country's risk index dipped below 1,000 points. It wasn't prosperity yet, but it was breathing room. As Election Day neared, the central question became clear. Would Argentines reward the libertarian president for his discipline or punish him for their pain? The answer would come at the polls, and the campaign would put every emotional button to get it. The 2025 Argentina election campaign was nothing short of a political circus, and Javier Milei was the ringmaster. His opponents, a coalition of traditional Peronistas and centrist moderates, tried to brand him as a dictator in disguise. They warned that dollarization would bankrupt the nation and that austerity had gone too far. But Milei flipped the script. He painted them as the architects of Argentina's decay, reminding voters that the inflation crisis didn't begin with him. It began with decades of corruption and economic populism. His rallies often resembled rock concerts, drew tens of thousands waving chainsaws made of cardboard and chanting for liberty. On social media, Milei was unstoppable. His campaign team mastered algorithms the way old politicians mastered handshakes. He posted clips mocking opponents, dissecting economic myths, and using humor to neutralize attacks. Even mainstream media, which had once dismissed him as a showman, couldn't ignore his ability to control the narrative. Every debate turned into a performance, and every controversy became free publicity. Behind the chaos, though, was strategy. Milei built unexpected alliances, from conservative business elites to disillusioned youth who had never voted before. He focused relentlessly on one idea: transformation. "We either embrace freedom or drown in mediocrity," he said in his final rally. His voice carried the exhaustion of a man fighting an entire establishment, and yet it also carried conviction. That energy would soon spill beyond Argentina's borders as the world turned its eyes toward this new experiment in Latin American politics. When the news of Milei's victory broke, the world responded with both fascination and unease. Latin American leaders were quick to weigh in, some with applause, others with alarm. Nayib Bukele congratulated him, calling it a triumph for liberty in our hemisphere. Meanwhile, Lula da Silva expressed concern over the rise of extremism, and Washington's response was cautious, labeling Milei's re-election as a democratic expression of the Argentine people. Even Donald Trump chimed in on social media, praising Milei as a brave fighter against socialism. The libertarian president had officially become Latin America's most polarizing figure. The international press didn't hold back. The New York Times described it as Argentina's great libertarian experiment, while The Economist wondered aloud if radical capitalism could save a country drowning in inflation. European markets reacted cautiously. Argentina's bonds saw a brief surge, and the peso stabilized as investors waited for signs of continuity. But the IMF and World Bank urged prudence, hinting that Milei's aggressive dollarization plan might test global financial patience. Still, Wall Street couldn't resist the potential. Major funds began eyeing Argentine energy, agriculture, and tech sectors once again.
Across Latin America, the ripple effect was immediate. In Chile and Colombia, libertarian movements suddenly gained traction, echoing Milei's anti-establishment tone. Social media buzzed with debates about whether Argentina's transformation could inspire a regional shift away from socialism. And yet, amid all the noise, one question lingered. Could Milei sustain global confidence while keeping his own nation from fracturing? The answer, as many analysts warned, would depend on what he did next, and the next phase promised to be his toughest challenge yet. Milei's second term begins with both promise and peril. He's vowed to complete what he started, full dollarization, shrinking the state even further, and privatizing industries that remain under government control. Supporters believe this could finally anchor the Argentine economy and end the inflation crisis once and for all. Critics, however, warn that such radical steps could deepen inequality and social unrest. The libertarian president's challenge now isn't just economic, it's political survival in a nation still haunted by populist ghosts. Argentina stands at a crossroads. If Milei's model works, it could redefine Latin America's political and economic map, inspiring others to reject state dependency and embrace market freedom. But if it fails, the backlash could resurrect Peronism with a vengeance. For the average Argentine, the question remains painfully personal. Will tomorrow bring stability or another storm? Many are cautiously hopeful. Small businesses are reopening, inflation expectations are falling, and the peso's shadow is fading from daily life. Yet, everyone knows how fragile progress can be. As investors and foreign governments watch closely, Milei faces his ultimate test, turning ideology into lasting prosperity. His followers call it Argentina's final battle against decline. Whether that battle leads to transformation or turmoil will shape not just Argentina's future, but Latin America's destiny. Because what's happening in Buenos Aires isn't just a local story. It's a mirror for the region's eternal struggle between freedom and control. And this time, the stakes couldn't be higher. Argentina stands on the edge of transformation or collapse. Javier Milei's victory isn't just another chapter in politics, it's a stress test for an entire ideology. Can a libertarian president truly fix an economy built on debt, subsidies, and inflation? Or will Argentina's attempt at radical freedom become a warning to the rest of Latin America? Only time and courage will tell. What we can say for sure is that this story is far from over. The next few years will decide whether Milei's vision of dollarization, deregulation, and discipline can turn Argentina into a model of success, or whether the pain of reform will push the nation back into old habits. And maybe that's the lesson for all of us. Every transformation demands sacrifice, but not every sacrifice guarantees transformation. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think Milei's second term will truly change Argentina, or is the country heading toward another crisis? Drop your opinion in the comments, share your perspective, and let's debate this moment that's shaping Latin America's future. And if you want to keep diving deep into global shifts like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because history doesn't wait, and neither should you.